Hello, nonprofit rock stars and heroes. This is Tom Check with Greater Impact Consulting, where we help you streamline Salesforce for your nonprofit so that you can focus on creating more impact in your communities. And today we are talking about flows. This is in our automation series, where we're talking about the three major tools that Salesforce uses to automate tasks and save your team time. If this is all Greek to you, go back and watch the videos about an overview of automation, which just talks about what is automation, why does it matter for your organization. Watch the video about the three types of automation that we're talking about: workflow rules, process builder, and flow. Or watch one of the previous two videos where we do a deep dive into workflow rules and a deep dive into process builder, respectively. Today we are talking about flow. Flow is where Salesforce is investing a bunch of their development energy and resources. Flow, my guess is, will eventually be the primary automation tool used in Salesforce. That being said, it is a little bit more complex than Process Builder, and that's why, as of right now, early 2021, I still recommend that most of you accidental admins, the people who don't have a ton of training in Salesforce, but are in the administrator's shoes regardless, probably should use Process Builder. It's a little easier to understand, it's a little more visual, it's a little more understandable. And so I do recommend that you still use Process Builder to build your current automations. That could change as time goes on. If you need to do more complex automations though, Flow is where that can happen. Flow can do just about anything, and it's really accessible with some additional training, which you can do through Trailhead, Salesforce's free online training platform. So that being said, let's go ahead and look at what a flow is. Again, our use case here is going to be the same for all three systems, so you can see how they overlap. Our use case is that we want to create two tasks when a major gift is given. In this case, a major gift being anything over $5,000 that is not a grant, an event ticket, or an in-kind service donation. And it is won. It's not a lost opportunity. It's not in progress. It's not prospecting. It's a closed won opportunity. We got the money. When those things are true, that's our trigger in automation speak. The actions we want an immediate action that creates a task telling one of our staff to phone that donor. Phone them and say thank you for your major gift. We also want to wait 6 months or thereabouts to create a second task that says send this donor an impact report for their donation, right? So you can identify, instead of having to create these manually and hopefully remember to create them, this will just happen automatically. And 6 months from now, kind of magically, a new task will be created that says, hey, send this person an impact report, it's time. And it gets created 6 months from now, not today, so it's not just cluttering up your staff's task list. So with that being said, that's our use case on the table, and let's dive into Flow to see how it looks over there. Let's go ahead and share a screen, and just like Workflow Rules and Process Builder, you have to go to Setup. In your quick find box, if you search for Flow, we're going to look for flows here under the Process Automation. You'll also see Process Builder and Workflow Rules under that same heading. And for this one, I've built already the major gift follow-up tasks creation, this one over here. We can see a couple of things. The process type is an auto-launched flow. All that means is that this is something that's happening in the background. It doesn't have a screen element associated with it, which is something that you don't even get an option for in the other two systems. It is active and it is unmanaged. This is just something we created. It didn't come from Nonprofit Success Pack or something like that. If I go ahead and click on the name, I'm taken to this screen, which is the actual flow. Now again, remember, we've got kind of two parts to an automation. We've got the trigger and we've got the action. In Flow, all the trigger information, instead of being a node like it is in Process Builder, all the trigger information is in this top box here with the big start icon. So if we go into Edit, we can see the information about when this is going to trigger. Before we even get to the type of record and type of object, we're looking at when is this firing. When it's created, or updated, and here's an option that only exists in Flow. It doesn't exist in Workflow Rules or Process Builder. You can have this fire when a record is deleted. So you can create some really interesting automations in Flow that you can't create in Process Builder that includes when a record is deleted. The section down below of when to run the flow before the record is saved or after the record is saved is probably not something you'll need to worry about as a small nonprofit. This has to do more in larger organizations where we're really worried about efficiency and performance. If I'm just updating the record that created the change, if I need to take my amount and change it on an opportunity, I can save a little bit of time and energy on Salesforce's side by saving this, by having the flow run before the record is saved. In our case, because we're creating outside objects, tasks in this case, we need to run it after the record is saved. Okay, so that's all of that you're not used to seeing. Here's what you are used to seeing, whether it's Process Builder or Workflow Rules. And this is our object criteria. So our object is opportunity, and our requirements, our conditions, are that the amount is greater than or equal to 5,000. Our record type is not any of these three. And you'll notice that this is a little different than what we've looked at in Workflow Rules and Process Builder. These are the actual record type IDs instead of the record type names. Best practice for Salesforce, especially in Process Builder and in Flow, is to use record type IDs. In Flow, you get less option. In Process Builder, you can try and use the names. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So if you're running into snags in Process Builder, know that. And our is1 field is true. Now, assuming those are met, we want to go ahead and have two different things happen. Like I said, an immediate task and a scheduled task. So here we've got scheduled paths. One of these is to create a 6-month impact report task, and it's going to happen 182 days after this is triggered. Our run immediately path, we don't have to set anything on. This just happens as soon as the criteria is met. And down below, this is about as simple of a flow as you're ever going to see. So we've got a couple of things to pay attention to here. So on the left-hand side, we've got a toolbox here that we didn't have in Process Builder or Workflow Rules, and it has Elements and Manager. Elements are the different things that you can do, right? We can create records, update records, get records, delete records. These orange things are logic. I can assign information to a variable. We'll talk about that in just a sec. I can make decisions. If X is true, then do this. But if Y is true, do this other thing. I can do all of that within Flow. And then I can loop through items. So if, for instance, an account has a bunch of contacts affiliated with it, and I want to update the information on those contacts every time that account is updated, I can do that by looping through each contact that's associated with an account. So those are my logics. I also have some quick actions. We're not going to get into that today because that's a whole separate ball of wax. On the other side here, I have Manager. And so this is something that you have to be aware of with Flow. It's a little different than Process Builder. With Flow, the way to think about it is that we've got our own little really special environment that's like a snapshot in time right when the flow is running. And we bring information in through inputs. We manipulate that data with variables, and then we output that data through creating records, updating records, and deleting records. So that's an important kind of little bit of a shift in how you look at automation here. So for instance, I need to create variables for the due dates on my tasks. These variables are just formulas. In this case, for the due date for the phone call is today plus 3. And the due date for my 6-month task is the close date plus 185, which our 6-month follow-up schedule path, if you remember, is today plus 182. So this will make the task due date 3 days after it's created, because 185 minus 182 is 3. Right? Already this feels a little bit more complex than a Process Builder. So, like I said, this is about as simple as a path's going to be. We've got 2 create record options here. One under run immediately. This one is our phone our donor, let them know that we are very thankful they gave us money. If I click on this create record, we'll see a couple of things in here. Okay. So I've got lots more options in here than I did in Process Builder. I can create one or multiple records. I can use values from a record variable, or I can manually input my variables. So in this one, we're manually creating our variables, and I'm going to create a task object, the activity date, or the due date as it's called. If I click on this, you can see that I've got an API name, which is activity date, and I've got the label, what it looks like on the actual task, which is due date. That's the formula field that I created under my variable resource manager. I've got a subject, call this donor to thank them, a description, this donor gave a large gift, call them to thank them, priority, high, status, not started, owner ID, there. The what ID is my related to, which I want to be this opportunity, and my who ID is going to be the opportunity, the account that it's connected to, the primary contact on that account. It's going to be their ID. That's really similar to our process builder. So much of this feels really similar. Now, of course, it's a little different, but it looks close enough that this should feel comfortable. Then I hit done. Our 6-month task is going to be really similar. It's just created on our 6-month schedule path. And if we open that up, we'll see that it's almost exactly the same. We're just using our different variable value for the activity due date. So this is the due date for 6-month task. Slightly different subject, slightly different description, priority, status, who it's assigned to, who it's associated with, all of that's going to be the same. So when I hit done, I would hit save and activate it. I've already activated this, and we'll see how it works. So if I go ahead and go over and create a new opportunity, and let's say I create a donation, and for this donation we're going to create it under the John Malkovich household, and I'm going to say for opportunity name this is Demo Op 2. Oops. We'll create this under the Malkovich household. We can add a primary contact if we want, but we don't have to because it's going to create our task based on the account primary contact. Our amount, we want to make sure this is big enough to trigger our automation, so we're going to make it at least $5,000. We have to put in a close date, that's a required field. And remember, our stage has to be something that equals 1. And so we're going to go down and mark this as closed 1. So because it is a donation that is 1, that is greater than $5,000, greater than or equal to $5,000, this should fire our flow. If I hit save, what we should see when this opens up is that it has a task already created in the activities section. And here it is, call this donor to thank them. So it works, at least as far as this really simple use case is concerned, it works the exact same as our process builder. It creates a task just like process builder did, just like our workflow rule did. So we can use any of the 3 tools to accomplish this. Flow does allow us, like I said, to do some really in-depth additional things. And so it is a very powerful tool. It's the most powerful of the 3. It does just require a little additional knowledge and a little additional understanding of the environment that it's working in. For most of your automations, Process Builder is going to be where you go to build them because it's easiest. And workflow rules are going to be where some of the outdated stuff or some of the stuff that's just built in or was built by an original administrator if you've had your Salesforce organization for a number of years. Some of your automations are likely built in workflow rules already, so you have to be aware of that. So that's the basics of automation within Salesforce. I hope that's helpful. This is a really important aspect of CRM and Salesforce in particular for your nonprofit, because when you automate things, it saves your staff time. And if you're saving them time and making it so that they're not working in the CRM as much, they can be out creating impact in the community far more effectively. As we talked about in our original video, these things also make your data entry more consistent, which means that your relationships with your stakeholders are going to be more consistent. And also it gives you higher quality data because you're not relying on humans to do this. I'm not relying on my development person to remember to create that 6-month task. It happens automatically. And so they don't have to worry about it. And that means that our donors, our major donors, are going to get more of these follow-ups with the impact reports in 6 months so that they feel like, man, I know what my donation did. I want to give again, right? And that's the payoff of all these automations. It saves you time, it makes your data quality better, but at the end of the day, it creates greater relationships between you and your stakeholders so that you get more donations and you get more constituents and you create a greater impact in your communities. So that's our automation talk. There's going to be a couple of follow-up videos talking about some other things that aren't technically automations, but will definitely save you time. And I kind of view them as automations from a consultant point of view, and they're a lot easier to work with than maybe something like Flow. So with that being said, keep up the great work, go build some automations to save you time, and go continue creating amazing impact in your communities. Until next time, be well.